Welcome to Everyday Torah. I had a question in the comment section, and since it is December 22nd, Christmas in our culture is right around the corner. Here was the question. It's an interesting, important question. Here it goes. How is it that so many professing believers celebrate pagan holidays and think they are glorifying God, but completely disregard God's holy feasts? Well, I'd say, the first thing I want to do is unvilify those who celebrate Christmas. And the reason I want to do that is that, I remember me, a young believer, growing up in my own household, my mom and dad doing the best they can. The shepherds, their pastors didn't teach them all that well. And, we're fighting with culture, a long, long history of the Catholic Church. And even though we had this thing called the Reformation, it didn't really reform a lot of things. And one of those things is Christmas. I know that when I grew up, even though I loved getting presents, I was a, young 10-year-old boy that wanted presents like everybody else. But even then, I certainly wanted to observe that Yeshua, Jesus, was born, Emmanuel, God with us. Without him coming to earth as a baby to be the sacrifice for our sins, where would I be? And together we would read the nativity story, Jesus in a manger, which likely was a sukkah, but, let's just leave the history out of it. But, my heart was in the right place. Was I doing something pagan? I would say now, yes, I was. Was my heart in the right place? Absolutely, it was. So anyway, I don't think I was a villain. I just think I was misinformed and a product of my culture. So everything that I'm saying here, I think you viewer need to hear from me that I don't feel any vitriol or this huge need to make people feel guilty or anything like that. At the same time, what I want to do is I want to rid my life of all pagan things. I want to rid my life of the things that I just don't want to find myself worshiping God, Yahweh, in a way that Yahweh doesn't want me to. I don't want to borrow those things from other cultures, the way that they worship their gods, and try to import it into my culture. And here's the thing. I really, really loved Christmas. And, I like cocoa, peppermint, and lights like anybody else. In fact, Amy and I downstairs, we have full-time lights in our house. They're not associated with Christmas for us, but we like the twinkly twinklies and the cuddles and the whole deal. So just know that from me. My testimony is that just because I don't do Christmas doesn't mean that there's not plenty of hot cocoa and peppermint and all that. But the question becomes, at what point do those things all work together to now you are participating in something you shouldn't be participating in? Is there anything wrong inherently with bringing a tree into your domicile, into your house? Well, I would say no, but at what point where there's enough of those things together that your heart gives yourself over something, your heart gives itself over to something else that it shouldn't give itself over to? Did I say that right? I don't even know. Well, anyway, to answer the question directly, people don't think that they're doing anything pagan. I know some of the videos that you are likely watching. The Psalm 119 ministry video is one for sure. Now, I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say, first of all, that God says, do not lie. Do not lie. So telling our kids that Santa is real is a lie, and it perpetuates falsehood. It perpetuates fantasies. And you have a child that, they find out that Santa, even if your child is watching this, Santa is not real. Well, someone needs to do it. Santa is not real. When they find that out, will they also find out later in life that they will say that, well, maybe God isn't real either. Well, God is real. Yahweh is real. We shouldn't lie to our kids. If you're perpetuating elf on a shelf, this is not good. That is an act of deception. You should not do that. It's really damaging to our families. But anyway, I want to relate the idea of Christmas to something a little bit more palatable for people, and that would be yoga. Now, some of you do yoga. I don't think you should do it, honestly. We're going to hear from John MacArthur on the topic in just a moment, but I like to go to Google Arts and Culture every so often. This is a website dedicated to this kind of stuff. And yoga is amongst the 6 schools of philosophy in Hinduism, and is also a major part of Buddhism and its meditation practices. So if you wanted to go take a look at the ancient origins of yoga, you could certainly do it here. They have it in nice pictorial fashion, and yeah, there you go. Well, anyway, I came across this quite some time ago. It's going to be a little bit grainy, and essentially the video is headline prime talking about, I think it's look at this. I think it was done in 2008, but this one's published here, 2015. This is Doug Pagitt. Doug Pagitt is a described emergent church leader who is offering yoga classes. Now, back when this video was made, that was not, this was a controversy. This doesn't seem to be a controversy now, because the question again becomes, at what point does a concept like yoga decouple itself from its pagan roots? Okay. Well, anyway, let's just take a listen here. I won't comment much, but I want you to hear John MacArthur's, what I think is a right and good argument.
John MacArthur, all right, let's say I do decide to try yoga, head to the local gym, give it a shot. What am I opening myself up to spiritually that could go against my Christian faith?
Well, that would depend on how the yoga is conducted. If it's just purely exercise and you're a strong Christian, probably wouldn't have any impact on your faith. But in the big picture, why would Christians want to borrow an expression from a false religion, from pantheism? God is everything, you're God, everything is God, when we believe there's only one true God, the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Why would we need to import that? If you want to exercise, exercise.
Yeah, if you want to bring a tree into your house, bring a tree into your house. If you want to put up lights, but why would you want to import, borrow? And this is exactly the argument that I'm looking to make with Christmas, and John MacArthur is clearly making it with regard to yoga. Now, in this interview, I think that instead of Doug Pagitt going on the defensive, which I think he does, he could have turned this around and said to John MacArthur, but do you not also do the very same thing by borrowing Yule logs, mistletoe, winter solstice, all that, and simply import that, and now we call it Christmas. So let's continue to listen for a sec.
But why borrow a term that has been part of a false religion for centuries?
All right, I think we've heard enough of that. But just to go back here for a moment, I think that decoupling has happened. And that is the reason why Christians today are comfortable with the idea. Now, why not do the feast days? Well, it's foreign to them. And the way that our evangelical churches have taught the feast days, we essentially have the same thing that was happening in the first, second century, is a desire to distance ourselves from those who killed Jesus, the Jewish people, and some of the early church fathers, and we'll call it apostolic fathers even. They wanted to distance themselves from the Torah, from the Jews' treatment of God. I've covered this in other videos, but Dialogue with Trypho, for example, by Justin Martyr, essentially takes a look at what the Jews did to Jesus and says, you guys were not faithful to the covenant. You rejected Jesus. We have accepted Jesus, and God has a whole new modality of working with people today. So I don't buy into that theology. It's called replacement theology. What I can tell you is the reason that Christians are okay with it is, number one, they don't see it as pagan. It's been decoupled. But let's just say you were to couple it back for them. I would say that they would probably say, well, you could try to couple it back for me, but I don't have any of those associations. Now, I think there's a sense in which people hide behind something. What they hide behind is they just want to do what they want to do. They want to observe Christmas, and it's what they've always known. They want to continue it as a tradition. And it really takes a lot of internal fortitude to recognize that there's a risk in decoupling, and that really, even though you might decouple mentally, you really can't actually decouple it. I think the bigger question is, does God decouple it? Does Yahweh decouple the practices of Christmas with bringing in the tree and the winter solstice and practicing pagan things? No, see, what I would say is that God is eternal, that God does not forget those sorts of things, and really, really wishes that his children would not engage in those things, because even though it's decoupled for you, it isn't decoupled for Yahweh. The classic thing is the golden calf, is that those people just wanted to try to get to Yahweh, and they did it in a way that was very innocent for them, that was very natural. But as we know in the story, God didn't take it that way. So the bigger question here is, even though you can do decoupling, the one that we love doesn't do the decoupling. And really what we should do is fall in line with the one that we worship and ask the fundamental question, Yahweh, how do you want me to worship you? What observances do you want me to be engaged in so that you feel like I love you? You feel like I'm with the program. And Yahweh, of course, in Leviticus 23, which is the summary chapter, has laid out the feast days that honor and exalt Yeshua as king. So anyway, not here to guilt anyone, doing the best I can to explain a difficult topic. And here's what I do in my own life. I actually don't try to, make it a point to try to talk people out of Christmas and Easter. What I instead do is I tell them my testimony, that I have let go of those things because I'm in love with a God that doesn't decouple, and I want to do those things that honor my Messiah. And so I do those things, and then I simply tell the story about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and then, let them make their own choices. And I don't feel like I need to guilt people. I just want my life to be so filled with life and with meaning and substance that it just attracts others to do the same. Hey, I am certainly not above correction. If there's something that I have said wrong, think wrong, you have your own perspective, go ahead and leave a comment below, and I look forward to reading it.